What a game between Ferris State and SBSU. Ferris State gets a 51-45 win in double overtime. This was everything and anything I thought this game was going to be. This was absolutely electric. This was a back and forth battle, and you would truly have to give credit to SBSU in this game because I talked about prior to this game in the preview of how I believed SVSU was probably going to give this Ferris State team their best shot of this year. I truly think that they did, and honestly, I think if you're asking Ferris State, they might say that hey, like they were on the ropes at that point. They were on the ropes in this game. You had SVSU up 24-7 in the third quarter, and at that point, I honestly thought that SVSU was going to win it because I thought that Mason McKenzie was playing really well at that point. I thought that SVSU was running the ball very effectively at that point, and there was about 9 minutes and 42 seconds left to go in the third quarter. And obviously, SVSU had all the momentum. SVSU was at home. They were getting the crowd behind them, and next thing you know, this Ferris State team just clicks it on and ends up making a comeback, making a win. And I have no idea how that truly happened. I think obviously there's multiple different factors for that. I think Chase Carter was absolutely fantastic. I've talked a lot about Wyatt Bauer, and I thought Wyatt Bauer in this game was obviously his toughest day as a starting quarterback in college. He threw 3 interceptions. This SVSU team forced 4 interceptions on the day. This defense was absolutely balling out. They had also multiple fumbles as well. I thought Chase Carter came in and truly made a difference, not only using his legs, but using his arm as well. 4 touchdowns, 208 yards, 67 yards on the ground. He truly started to really make the difference, and I think he was a big reason for this comeback. But you also had this defense for Ferris State step up as well. It seemed like Ferris State kind of had a little bit of momentum going. You had Tariq Brett, you had Cam Underwood score a couple of touchdowns, and it made it a 24-21 lead for SBSU within a couple minutes. There was like 3 minutes left to go in the third quarter. This game completely switched in 6 minutes. And then you also had a really great play by Justin Pyatt. Sorry if I completely botched your name. A 38-yard interception return for a touchdown to give Ferris State the 28-24 lead with 1:36 left to go in the third quarter. In 8 minutes, this game went from SBSU completely controlling it to Ferris State taking the lead. But you have to give SVSU a ton of credit for this game. I think you have to obviously give them a ton of credit for the start of this game, for where they got to this point. But even at that point, when they were down 28-24, you have to give Saginaw Valley State a ton of credit because there could have been a real possibility of this team just completely giving up. And I absolutely don't believe that they did that whatsoever. That's why this game went into double overtime. You had a really great touchdown run from Mason McKenzie after a forced turnover, another one by SVSU to give them the lead back. You had Ferris State punch back a little bit. They had Ferris State up by 7 with about 3 minutes and 45 seconds left to go. And then a great touchdown drive by SVSU with an ending in an 18-yard touchdown reception by Varric Zelinski, by Mason McKenzie to obviously tie this game. I completely understand tying that game at that point because there's still 1:55 minutes left to go, right? Like, Ferris State was really, really good towards the end. You didn't want to go for 2. Completely understandable, right? Like, that's exactly what I would have done. I would have tied it up, relied on my defense, even though that I thought Ferris State after that was still being really effective. They had a huge play, had a real possibility of winning this game, but Eddie Jewett ended up missing a field goal, ended up getting into overtime, and once the overtime started to really happen, this is where I'm going to get a little bit of a different opinion than what truly happened, because obviously Ferris ended up getting the ball back first to start out the first overtime. 25-yard pass, one play from Brady Rose to Tay Boyd. And you just completely knew at that point that obviously SVSU needed to go to score. And they absolutely did, and with a Mason McKenzie 1-yard touchdown run. Tied 45-45. And this is where I would have handled it differently. And obviously I'm not the head coach. I had the head coach on. I've had Coach Ryan Brady on. I think he's a great head coach. I think he's obviously doing great things at SVSU. This is where I would have differed from his decision. And I don't necessarily know what went into this decision, why they end up kicking the field goal. I don't necessarily know why. Maybe I'll ask him one day. This is where I would have went for the win. I would have went for 2, and I would have relied on whatever happened. Because you're going up against the number 1 team in the country. And to SVSU's credit, they performed really, really well against Ferris State. But the one thing we've seen from Ferris, especially in this game, was that when they need to respond, they did. And I think this SVSU defense performed as well as you very could against this offense. They had 4 interceptions in this game, had a couple fumble recoveries as well. You can't ask for a better game than this. The only reason why I say you go for the 2-point conversion is because you need to win this game. Like, I know that's just saying, well, yeah, they need to win this game, right? But here's the thing. If you win this game, you control your own destiny. And if you end up missing the 2-point conversion, fine. Like, that's a decision. No one's going to be upset about it. The reason why I'm a little frustrated by it is obviously I'm really happy for Ferris State. I really love Ferris State. I've talked a lot about Ferris State. I'm probably one of the highest people on Ferris State, even though everyone's probably really high on this team. This team figures out ways to win even when they don't perform well. Like, Ferris State just clinched the GLIAC because of this. Like, full-on credit to Ferris State. They played well enough to win. Chase Carter was a huge portion of that. I don't think Ferris State performed even nearly close to what they could. I think SVSU obviously forced Ferris State into some mistakes, but they made quite a few mistakes, and Ferris State still ends up winning. But that's why I think you have to go for a 2-point conversion at this point, is because the longer this game goes, you're either going to have to go for that 2-point conversion eventually, or you're going to have to hope Ferris State makes mistakes. And yes, Ferris State did make mistakes in this game, but they didn't make mistakes after the fourth quarter. They didn't make mistakes in the fourth quarter. They didn't do that. You need to take advantage of the opportunities when you have a chance to win, and I absolutely would have went for 2. We've seen SVSU win huge games against GVSU. They overcome the GVSU game. They had a real chance to overcome this game. They obviously didn't. They end up basically kicking a field goal. Field goal kicker misses it, and Tariq Brett had a 12-yard touchdown run to win it. And like I said, full credit to Ferris State, but I would have approached things a little bit differently. And I don't know necessarily if the coaching staff thinks that today. I don't know if they look back at that and saying, hey, there's things that they would do differently. I'm not entirely sure. But just full-on credit to obviously Ferris State. Congrats on the GLIAC championship. Full-on credit to SVSU as well. Played very, very well. Played very, very hard. You could say that they should have won this game, but that's not what happens. Ferris State ends up getting a 51-45 win in double overtime. Like I said at the very beginning, everything you'd want in this football game and everything I kind of expected as well. But yeah, congrats to Ferris State on their GLIAC championship. Great game from SVSU, even though they fell just a little bit short. But I'll talk about these teams' last games next week, and then obviously Ferris State will be going to the playoffs, so excited to talk about them as well. But great game for both teams, and yeah, if you enjoy this, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff, and obviously talk about these two teams next week as well.